On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks go down against the Boston Celtics. What did we learn from this game? What did we see from Jaden Hardy? We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Boston Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen each and every day. And every post game, we are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. The best way you can help us grow the show, comment anything below. This is a bad loss, so I'm assuming the comment section will be plentiful.
Yeah.
It's like bad loss. It's like 400 comments. Really good win, 200 comments. That's always the case after games like this. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, contributor, Mavs.com, the Boston Boiler, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
We'll snap back to reality.
Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes Rabbit. He choked. He's so mad, but he won't give up that easy. Nope.
Oh my gosh. We had multiple comments the other day about your singing of that other song. Great.
Guys, I'm just a musical genius.
Shout out to John Corrales. Met John, host of Locked On Celtics. Met John tonight, traveling and covering the Celtics here in Dallas. You ate lunch with him. Did he have any big Dallas takeaways or anything?
I don't think he had any Dallas takes. He's questioning if Jason Kidd's a good coach, and I don't know. I might be too.
Oh, what a great game tonight. I had somebody text me during the game and said, "Hey, Luka looks like me. Looks like he's late in his 30s and needing another beer." And he's like hobbling around. Luka did look like
I need a recovery beer.
Luka looked like late in the career Dirk Nowitzki tonight.
Dang.
We're struggling.
Wow. I don't know about that. But so today we'll talk about the Dallas Mavericks loss to the Celtics, talk about some things that we learned. We did get some good Jaden Hardy minutes, though. So even though it was like a really bad loss, still have some good stuff to talk about. What could his role be in the Mavericks going forward? Could Jason Kidd finally find him some minutes? I know that's a thing Jason Kidd told us that he wants to do, is to find Jaden Hardy minutes. So can he do that?
He's looking for him. Yeah.
He's looking for him. I don't know where he's going to find him, but yeah.
Nick, that's a good question.
Thank you. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, let's get into this game. So the Dallas Mavericks, they lose 124-95. And it was just one of those games where from just the very beginning, it was only a 9-point lead for the Celtics after the first quarter, but you just could see this Mavericks team was not as good as the Celtics. That's kind of it, right? They got outclassed. It's another one of those games like the Cavs game that we talked about earlier in the year where you go into a game and you just got beat at every level of the game. And like Isaac said, Luka Doncic wasn't at his best. And when Luka Doncic's not at his best, like at his 90 percentile, 100 percentile of what Luka Doncic can be, then this team doesn't even perform well, let alone like get close to winning.
Yeah, I love watching their team play basketball, Boston. You know, obviously not against Dallas because, you know, they just smoked us and all that.
I know you're a secret Celtics fan, so.
No, you are.
That's where your Lakers and LeBron hate comes from.
But you see a team that, you know, they invest in the perimeter. They invest in these guys that, you know, they could switch, you know, almost everybody they have on the floor can hit a three or can put the ball on the floor. Even like Al Horford, you saw the difference of a team like Dallas and Boston in the sense of quick decision-making.
Yeah.
Like they are passing the ball like so quick and all the way.
First play of the game was like, oh no, this is going to be a long night.
Yeah, and it was just, it felt like they had so many open threes. They spaced the floor out so well. They know where everybody's at. And it was just like, wow, like what is going on? Like it felt like, you know, it felt like one of those times in high school to where you just go up against another like division in high school. And it's hard because I was in like a small town and like in Dallas, there's all these like crazy, you know, classes and all this stuff. But it's like you play that one school that's just like out of your like whole district.
I played AAU basketball in middle school, and
flexing.
We had. I was not.
AAU.
I was not good, but I played AAU, and we went and we scrimmaged against this team from. What was the school? What was the city name? It was a city like a couple miles away. No, in Cincinnati, and there's this guy named Niles. And he dunked right in the middle of the game. And like we get done with the game and the coach goes, all right, did you guys write down any of those names? Because you might be hearing about those guys in college and the NBA. Like you get done with the game and you're like, oh dang, we just got thoroughly beat so badly that the coach is saying like, hey, watch out for those guys playing on like the next level.
Sounds like Jason Kidd tonight. but no, I mean, that's just, there were so many things they were doing in the game where like, oh, okay, that's what a really, really good team does. Now, we get it. It was a bounce back game for arguably the best team in the league. They got just embarrassed in OKC.
Hosed.
And so this was their next game after that. You know, like you knew that they were wanting to bounce back, play really well.
Yep.
But still for Dallas, like, I mean, they just looked like they're playing almost a different sport at times tonight.
Yeah, it did. That's not hard to see if you were watching the game, but you start to wonder, like, okay, well, what's the big difference between the teams? And it kind of comes down to talent. We've talked about it a lot, but comes down to talent. Comes down to that second guy next to Luka. If Luka isn't 100%, you could tell he was dealing with some kind of like respiratory illness or something. He was coughing. He was like, they were talking about he was having trouble breathing on the broadcast, and I was like, then I would look at Luka, like he'd look like he was having fun and like being fine, but.
Well, no, it was weird because he left the game. There, you know, it was like in the first quarter, something. And, you know, he's standing at half court and he like points at the bench and he's like pointing at the locker room and he's like walking across the court. And I remember I was like, what's going on with that? And I think it was Brad or, you know, somebody tweeted out saying it's something with his foot. And so then he comes back, but then he comes back in the game and he's like holding his chest and stuff a lot. I lean over to Bobby. I'm like, what is he doing holding his chest so much? And he was coughing a ton. So I don't know. I don't want to even like speculate or anything, but it's like, what, you know, was he battling through something or whatever? But it was like the coughing and the foot. He just was off tonight.
And when Luka's off, this team can't overcome that at all in any way or in any phase of the game. Right. And so, at the end of the first quarter, what you're talking about is he got his left ankle looked at, according to Brad Townsend. So that was something. But then, he came back and he had like his face in his jersey as he was like, you know, I don't know what was going on with Luka. I don't know if anybody knows what was happening with him. He didn't
talk to the media.
He didn't talk to the media post game or anything like that. So we, when the Dallas Mavericks don't have that, and honestly, through the first half, they had 16 threes. In the third quarter, they took 10 more. So they only took 26 threes in the first three quarters. It reminded me a lot of the playoff games that we covered where there was a formula. There's a formula for this team. They had to take enough three-pointers and enough three-point shots in order for the variance to like catch up with them, right? Like they had to take enough and get enough opportunities if they were ever going to go on any kind of run and catch this team. And they just didn't get enough up in the first three quarters, right? In the fourth quarter doesn't really count because it's garbage time.
They couldn't get it up.
They couldn't get it up in any way tonight. But there's medication for that if you need to. Blue Chew used to be a sponsor. But we would talk about that all throughout the playoff run last year. It's like, okay, for this team to win, there has to be a formula. They have to get up enough threes in order to win or to have a chance to win. And they just didn't do that in this game either. The Celtics were so good defending and running them off the three-point line. And then when you run the Mavs off the three-point line, it's like, all right, what are their options? Okay, well, it's Christian Wood on a Marcus Smart one-on-one. It's Luka on a Al Horford one-on-one that he took advantage of and hit him. It's, Dinwiddie against Jaylen Brown on a switch. Like, okay, well, there's just not a ton of like easy options for us. And that's the difference between a playoff team that the Mavs are and a championship team that the Celtics are looking to be. Coming up, though, there's a couple of quotes post-game that I found kind of interesting. One from Jason Kidd, one from Spencer Dinwiddie. Do the Mavericks know who they are? Have they accepted what they are and what level they are as a team? What does that tell us about the Mavs going forward? We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about LinkedIn. It's the best place to post your job. You can post your job for free. They have a ton of accounts. Like everybody has a LinkedIn, it seems like. And it's easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform. You can get LinkedIn Jobs. It's the number one at delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. You can go check out LinkedIn right now. It helps you quickly attract candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They have 875 million member profiles. That's a ton of member profiles. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, they will apply. All right, Isaac Harris, thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Go check out Locked On NBA. I hosted it yesterday, so you may want to hear me and Pat talk about something else besides the Mavs. You can hear Locked On Sports today as well. Great stuff every day on all kinds of sports. Post-game, there's a couple of quotes that I found interesting, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on these.
I'm ready.
I asked Jason Kidd, I said, what's the message to your team after a loss like this where you don't look good on either end? Like they just didn't play well on offense, didn't play well on defense. What's your message? And he said, quote,
Do you have a clip of this?
I have my interpretation of what he would sound like.
Twitter isn't the coach.
No, we just lost to the best team in the league. Look and see how they played and how the ball was shared. They executed their game plan. They did a lot of things. They go to the finals last year and have a new coach. Their ability, if things aren't going well, their two stars aren't going well in the first half. In this game, I understand Tatum as a triple-double, which is pretty cool. Blah, blah, blah. He starts going through that. But, other guys stepping up. The quote that stands out to me in that is, we just lost to the best team in the league. Then Dinwiddie is asked a question about, what went wrong tonight and how the Mavs, can bounce back from a game like this. And one of the things he said was, obviously losing to the Celtics on paper isn't the most terrible loss in the world. And so you hear those two quotes separately, and you're like, okay, Jason Kidd's message to the team was, well, we just lost to the best team in the NBA. Okay, it wasn't like, hey, we should have been better in these areas because we could have beat this team. It was, no, that's the best team in the NBA. And then Dinwiddie's was, well, a loss to the Celtics doesn't look too bad on paper, which is true, right? Both those things can be true, but does it tell us that the Mavericks have accepted that they as a team are on a certain level? That, all right, we know who we are as a team. And I think they've learned that throughout this year by underestimating a lot of opponents. They lost a bunch of games this season where the star was sitting. Paolo Banchero sits for the Magic, they lose. Zion and Ingram are out for the Pelicans and they lose, right? All these games where they just come in and they overestimated thinking we're better than we are. And now they go through a stretch where Luka had to go nuclear and against these bad teams, and they had to scrap their way to wins. And then they play teams like Boston earlier this year, Milwaukee earlier this year, and now this Boston team, you're like, all right, we're just not on their level. We're not on their level. We're not as good as we thought we were. Here we are.
Yeah. What was your question?
I did. That was my take.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, I mean, they're not on that. They're not.
It's called
on
a
that
take,
class.
Isaac. I don't know, like sports podcasts. We do it sometimes.
Hot take. First take. No, I mean, I think they. No, it was horrible first take. I think they know who they are, right? I mean, it feels like I don't know if I'm ready to go draw big conclusions by those comments of hey, they felt defeated before it even started, or even something like that. I don't think that. And I would assume Jason Kidd said, I would assume that he said more than just, walking into the locker room and, hey, it's the best team in the league. So see y'all tomorrow.
He didn't do the thing that my middle school coach said where he was like, that's a great team over there. Look for them to play in college in the NBA.
Look for Jason Tatum to be in the Hall of Fame one day. So, but I mean, it's just, I think the only thing that I would look at and say, oh, okay, it would be the Jason Kidd comment. And maybe that's a reflection of coaching staff, front office, that they understand that it's a sign that we can see that they know that we're not on that level. Hey, as a team, it's just, we're not on the same level as Boston, Milwaukee, a true title contender like that. And maybe that is a little sign of they could, be more active. I don't know.
Which we know that they think that, because last year when they went to the Western Conference Finals, how quick was Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd to say, well, we outperformed. What was it? What was the phrase that they used?
Overachieved.
We overachieved. we overachieved this year getting to the Western Conference Finals. And I know people are going to expect a lot from us next year, but, we overachieved this year. And so, like, they really wanted to temper expectations going into this next year and not be like, we've arrived. Like, we're here. We're ready. We're going to take the next step going forward. And, we expect to be in contention, right? Like, that a title contending team should think. But they're not. And, like, all the fans think that they're not. And the team doesn't think that they are either. So this is one of the things with, Cuban and Nico are going to ruin this team because blah, blah, blah. They think that they're good enough, and they think Dwight Powell and Bullock and Tim Hardaway are good enough. They don't think that. Like, they don't think that they're on this level. They know that there's, like, another level they can get to, and they know that they have to make some moves in order to do it. It's just, when can those moves be made in the best way possible? And that's the act that the front office has to run, and that the coaching staff is probably waiting for. Like, all right, we'll wait around for that move to be made until we're in that level. But until then, we'll try and win games just by the three, or die by the three, basically, until then.
Yeah, because I think you've seen it, tonight, that when we talk about having a second star or a second running mate next to Luka, these are the nights that you want that guy to take over, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are the nights that you look at and say, man, Luka physically looks out of it. He had 23, but it felt like that was, like, tough to get to 23 tonight. And, this is a night that you want that next guy. And, for Dinwiddie and Christian Wood, like, they had okay games. Christian Wood had 12, Dinwiddie had 18, but, like, they struggled. Dinwiddie was aggressive. I liked that from him, especially early. Like, he was aggressive at getting to the basket. Derek White's block on his dunk was tough.
After the game, Dinwiddie said, if it was going to be anybody, another Buffalo from Colorado, like, they both went to Colorado. He was like, I'm glad it was him. And but then Tim McMahon asked, he's like, what'd you say to him after the game, or after that he blocked your dunk? And he was like, oh, it was already slipping out of my hand. That's what I told him. It's like, it was already slipping out of my hand when I went.
It actually was slipping out of his hand.
No, that's what he said. So
because I seen that, but I was like, I'm not going to tweet this out because it's going to be like a Homer thing. But like, both of them,
Mavs State Media.
There's all of these, Boston has all these guys that are so good on defense. Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Tatum, all that's like, they can just switch and guard all these guys. And it's like, even like Christian Wood, like, he didn't have. There was multiple guys that he went up against tonight that he didn't have a mismatch on, including Marcus Smart, Grant Williams, Rob Williams had a nasty block on him. So
I would counter that Christian Wood didn't have a single mismatch in this game, because there was no him versus Derek White one-on-one. That would have been the one mismatch he could have gotten. But there was not of the rotation guys that played in this game, Tatum, Brown, Horford, Smart, Grant Williams, even Brogdon's pretty big and stocky, Robert Williams. Like, he's not getting a mismatch on any of those guys. And that's where Christian Wood really can take advantage, be an advantage for your team. And if you have all these guys that can both step out on the three, guard in the post because they're really strong, like, that takes away all your advantage as Christian Wood. And so he struggled in this game. I thought he had a better third quarter. He came out firing a little bit more, grabbing some more rebounds. I thought he was a lot better in the third, but it was a little shell-shocking for him to come out and be like, oh, dang, this is like the level you have to play.
Yeah, it was a little bit, beyond just him. I'm not singling out him in this. It was a little bit of, a little like Dorothy from Wizard of Oz of, we're not in Kansas anymore. It's like, hey, we're not playing the Rockets anymore. And it's like, I even joked about on Twitter, I'm like, can we play the Rockets again? Like, I don't even want to see the Rockets.
Isaac, you were just complaining about how you hated the Rockets and we're so done with the Rockets, and now you want them back.
But what a difference, though. We were talking before this Boston game, on a pod 2 days ago, saying, all right, let's see what this looks like now. Now we're going to go up against a good team. Whenever, the 7-game winning streak was, 3 of those was against Houston. Another one was against San Antonio. And, the New York game without Brunson and RJ Barrett, that was the 60, triple-double game and all that. So it was kind of like a back down to earth, humbling moment of, all right, here we are. Now let's put this to test against Boston. And Boston's one of the best teams in the league.
And we should mention, missing 3 of your 4 best defensive players, this is one of the worst games you can have.
Yeah,
missing those 3 guys, right?
That would be guarding all of those guys. Like, Tim ain't guarding any of those dudes on a regular basis.
No, this is a game where you figure out a way to start
We've seen Maxey
Bang
guard.
Bros trying to keep it. The Bang Bros.
You figure out a way to start both of those guys, and maybe Josh too. Like maybe you figure out a way to do that too, because you have so many wing guys to cover that you don't want to put Luka on. You don't want to have Wood having to figure out a way to guard them, and like maybe you figure out maybe you sit Dinwiddie and have him come off the bench for a little bit of scoring punch. But yeah, having all three of those guys out is that hurts you really bad in this game, especially.
We've seen Maxey guard Jason Tatum in past years, so it's like, I mean, from Maxey to Dorian to Josh Green, like all three of those dudes would be playing defense on these guys before Tim Hardaway.
One guy we did see play and play pretty well was Jaden Hardy. Came out in the fourth quarter. Oh, we almost got my dream scenario. Let's talk about how Jaden Hardy looked, what we saw from him, and what he can do for the Mavs going forward. Talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about BetOnline. It's the best place to check out odds and lines in sports. You can go check out the conference futures. Who do you think is the favorite to win the East, Isaac Harris?
Boston.
Plus 200 for Boston. The Bucks are plus 300 right behind them. The Nets plus 350 right behind the Bucks right there. They've really shot up the charts. Cavs plus 850. That's a pretty good. And the Sixers plus 850. Those are some pretty good odds if you want to check that out. Raptors plus 3,300. That one is interesting. Long shot bets. Wow. Bulls plus 125,000. No, 12,000. Plus 12,000. So if you bet $100 on the Bulls to win the East and they do somehow, you'll win $12,000. So if you're a gambler, you really want to do a gamble, maybe check this out. They have all kinds of other stuff too. They'll have NFL. They have college sports going into the final game. And you'll have all kinds of stuff on BetOnline. Check it out. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Isaac Harris, let's talk about Jaden Hardy. I'm going to do it.
Hardy, let's go party.
That's good. All right, that's good. The laugh in there is amazing. It's from our interview on Media Day, and it's my favorite thing I think we've ever done. Got Jaden Hardy laugh like that. We saw Jaden Hardy check in a little bit earlier in the game. We saw him and McKinley Wright come up off the bench, and all of a sudden Jason Kidd was like, hey, let's just go with whatever. There's 3 minutes left in the third quarter. Mavericks were down 59-81 after just a run from the Celtics where it felt like the Mavs could maybe get back in. What did they cut it to 11 in the third quarter at a certain point, and then the Celtics just started hitting threes again. Kidd subs in Hardy and McKinley Wright with Luka, Dinwiddie, and Dwight Powell. It just felt like he was really trying to throw. Like it really felt like he switched pitchers, right? Like, it
felt like he looked at Sean Sweeney and was like, "Hey, do you have like all the like the team roster on like playing cards?" And it like it's turned around backwards, and Kidd's just like, "All right, I got McKinley Wright. You want to put him in? I got Dwight," and he just pulled out 5 players. Is that a Rick Carlisle 3-guard lineup? Because it's like Dinwiddie, McKinley,
that's
Wright,
4
Jaden
guards
Hardy.
with Luka out there.
I know if you want to count Luka, it was one of the weirdest lines I've seen this whole year. But I also don't blame him because nothing else was working.
Yeah, he had to try something else, and so he tried that. But we saw Jaden Hardy go out there and he hit a 3 early, and in the fourth quarter, he played the entire fourth quarter, had 12 points, 2 assists, and 2 rebounds, and he took it at Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and Dinwiddie was like deferring to him in the open court, saying, "Hey, go for it, man! Like you got this." Dinwiddie had played like 40 minutes; he was really tired. But
why? Everybody was tweeting about why Jason Tatum, all of them were in the game, and I'm sitting there saying, "Why is Dinwiddie playing 40 minutes in this game when they're down by 20 at halftime?"
So, but Hardy was leading them at a certain point. He was hitting he hit a couple of threes. He had a couple of plays in transition, went to the free throw line once. He cut it to 15, and that's when you go, okay, my scenario that I've been calling for since the beginning is one of these games, the Mavs are going to be down by a lot. The other team's going to pull their starters. The Mavericks are going to put out Jaden Hardy, and he's going to come back and like score 18 points in a quarter and lead them to a comeback. And all of a sudden, both teams are going to be like, dang, should we put our starters back in? Should we put our starters back in and try to actually win this? Or how can we hold on to this win? This kid is going at us. almost got that. We were like one run away from that, but Missoula decided to leave the starters in, and the starters were in there for a while. They didn't really throw out their bench until 3 minutes left?
Maybe Missoula was scared of Jaden Hardy, and that's why he left him in.
Hey, he's been listening to the Locked On Mavs, and he knows, you don't mess with the Hardy Party.
Party, let's go party.
What did you see from Jaden Hardy in this game?
Aggression. It was a lot of fun. I mean, you don't have anything to lose, right? When you get put in for a game like that, and I think like a lot of Mavs fans, you watch that and you're like, can you just shoot every shot? Just give the ball to him every time. And they were for a little bit. It was just saying, hey, clear it out. True or false? He's the quickest driver on the team. I think he is.
Yeah, probably true.
This dude shot to the basket. I mean, just I'm like, whoa. And it just pops off the screen about how, because, Luka and Dinwiddie, they're, great drivers, but they're more of crafty, the herky jerky, shifty, shifty, all of that stuff. Jaden Hardy's just zoof right to the basket. And I mean, the threes look good. He, hit all 3 of his threes. He was a lot of fun tonight, man. He's fun. I still don't know what his role is, because, defensive and all that stuff, he's not the best defensive player. Yeah. So I think long term, I'm still married to the Jordan Poole comp for Jaden Hardy. That's still my favorite comp, but yeah. And it gives you the glimpses too of, there's so many trade possibilities with this Mavs team that if they make 1 or 2 consolidation type trades, 2 for 1s or a 3 for 1 type of deal, or if it's one of those 3 for 3 trades, but the other 2 are non-guarantee guys, and they're like, all right, screw it, we're waiving them, and they have to Jaden Hardy has to play some minutes. That's the type of thing all right, this is fun. They trade a couple of bench guys, and now he has to be the 7th or 8th man on the team. It's
a term about Jaden Hardy that Dinwiddie used tonight? He's got some boogie in his game. Not Boogie Cousins, but he's got some boogie. He's got some. He can handle the ball. He can do all the stuff that you were talking about. He's got that quick first step, quick second step. He's got just quick in general, and can dribble and get into spaces and find his spot on the floor. And he said there's only a couple guys on the roster that have that. It's it's Luka, it's Kemba, it's Jaden. And I thought it was good praise, and it was a good word from Dinwiddie. He's got some boogie in his game.
I like him as the 2 guard. You saw tonight a little bit whenever they were clearing out and running the offense through him. When it comes to creating for others, I don't know if he tried to throw this lob to JaVale, and I thought it was going to put another leak in the AAC, because I mean it was just wild. It was he's a little too wild out there to run the offense. So I like him playing off the ball, but
I asked him after the game, and you can go watch our YouTube shorts and hear my couple of questions I asked Jaden Hardy. But I asked him, have you been working with God Shamgod, who's the Mavericks, basically ball handling coach? He's a ball handling legend in the NBA and in college,
guru,
and the ball handling guru for the Mavs. He said, yeah, we've been doing some workouts. We've been doing some one-on-one workouts. And I'm like, yes, that's the key for his game going forward. He's so quick. He's so shifty, but the ball has to stay with him. There's so many times in the G League I've watched him this year where he drives into guys and just collapses. There's a couple games ago in the NBA. He had one of those games where he just drove into a couple guys, collapsed on the floor, and you're like, wait, what just happened? How did he lose the ball and he's on the ground too? I think ball handling and improving his handle is going to be a huge step in the right direction, but you saw what he's capable of. Do you think that this will entice Kidd to finally find the minutes that Kidd said weeks ago that he needs to find for Jaden Hardy?
I mean, I don't think this is changing anything with Jason Kidd, but I think it just shows them that they have somebody capable that if they do consolidate some of the roster, he's ready for some more time. So
the thing that I don't get is they need somebody like this. They need somebody else with the offense.
They need somebody like it, but they're not going to play him over Reggie. I know some fans are like, hey.
Or Tim. Tim's the other option.
Tim's under contract for multiple years, making $18-19 million. They're not going to play. They're not going to just bench Tim for Jaden Hardy.
And I'm pretty sure he's on the leadership council.
Yeah. Let Tim vote to approve that one on the council.
So is Dwight.
So I think that they would trade Reggie Bullock before they would just bench him for Jaden Hardy. Like that's the type of thing. Like I don't think that Jason Kidd's going to do that.
And we've done this whole thing before about Jaden Hardy, but his path to minutes looks a lot easier right now with Josh Green out, with Dorian out, even with Maxey out, than it does when all those guys are back and all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, it's really hard to find minutes. But they do need that skill set, is my point earlier, is that they do.
Now, I don't understand why Frank plays over him. I don't understand.
Yeah, there you go.
That makes zero sense to me because they typically always play Frank with another point guard. So I'm like, why are we doing this with Frank over him? Which doesn't, on the grand scheme of things, doesn't change everything because Frank only averages 5 to 8 minutes a game sometimes. But like, I don't see any scenario in which Frank should play over him. But
recently McKinley Wright's been playing over both Frank and Jaden Hardy, and it's because of defense. Because Kidd's trying to find the defense somewhere and trying to find where this team can find defense, especially with those 3 guys out. But I don't know. At this point, you still got to lean all offense. You got to be able to go on some runs because you can't stop anybody the way that your team is, like the personnel is right now. Let us know in the comment section below what's one thing you liked that you saw from Jaden Hardy. Let us know below, and then we'll be back with some post games this weekend. We've got some, as I just showed everybody on YouTube, my calendar. We have the Pelicans on Saturday. That's a home game. We'll have a post game after that. Zion Williamson will not play probably in that game. The Thunder is the game after that. Second night of a back-to-back, and so we'll have a post game for you for that game as well. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.